Hello, this is the video preparation for courtroom testimony, and there are some questions and there are some answers to respond to those questions. And let's get started. What is the ASV process? What does it stand for, and how do you apply it to a friction ridge analysis? Explain each step. ASV is a scientific method to verify and compare uh, the latent prints and known prints and come to a conclusion whether the latent prints is ID, which is identified, and excluded, which is not an ID and not matching with the known prints. And ASV's acronym stands for Analysis, Comparison, Evaluation, and Verification. Analysis: when the latent print arrives to the examiner assess whether the latent print is comparable with the known print in the database, and comparison is a step where the examiner compares the latent print with the known print and looks for the special features on the latent print, such as bifurcation, short ridge, ending ridges. And evaluation is where the examiner evaluates whether the latent print and the non-print is an ID, also known as an identification, or whether it is an exclusion, which is not an ID, which is not an identification. Question number 2. What are the three levels of details, and describe each level. Level 1 details patterns to the overall pattern type, and those pattern types are distinguishable, such as a whorl, arch, and a loop. Level 2 details are focused on the ridge, and the ridge contains bifurcation, short ridges, ending ridge, and level 3 includes all dimensional features on the ridge, such as pores, dots, scars, etc. And where's question number 3? How might the environment affect latent print impressions? The temperature in the environment plays a major role on latent prints. And when, for an example, when it's humid, and if a latent print has left behind on a surface, it could be mushy, and it could be affected due to the sweat and the evaporation due to the humidity. And thus the environment plays a crucial role in absorbing the latent print. Question number 4. Define bifurcation, ending ridge, short ridge, core, and delta. Bifurcation is a point where a friction ridge forks and forms two different ridges from a single ridge. And what is defined ending ridge? Ending ridge is defined as a ridge which abruptly ends, and a short ridge is a ridge that travels a small distance. It is a short ridge, and it has no abrupt start and it has no abrupt ending. It's just short in size. And a core is a center of the print of a fingerprint, and it is highly important because you can make an individual count of the ridges from the core, and it's located in the center of the finger. Delta. The delta is a point on a ridge, or it's at the front, and it is located into the nearest center of the diversion of the type of lines. Question number 5. What is a latent print? A latent print is an impression of the friction ridge skin of the fingers and palms, which has been transferred from a specific surface, and which has been left behind from a crime scene. And question number 6. What are non-prints? Non-prints are given a name given to the fingerprints that deliberately collected from a subject for the purposes of uh, placement in the system for the for variety of purposes such as like storing details and storing the ID for the fingerprint for verifying criminal cases or suspected criminal offenses. Question number 7. Define signs. A systematically organized body of knowledge on a particular subject. It could be applied to criminal justice system. It could be applied to forensic science. It could be applied to physics, biology, chemistry, etc. And question number 8. How do scars develop on the skin, and are scars temporary or permanent damage to the skin? Scars develop on the skin by injuries, and based on the injury, skin if it's a deep cut, it could leave behind some marks from the scar, hence it could not be on a permanent. For the most part, it's temporary because the skin usually heals by itself and it's a unique process, and scars can be hence temporary, and also at the same time scars can be developed by occupations. For example, construction workers, when they move bricks or hard objects by their hands, the ridge could be affected by the movement of the bricks and all the solid objects, and it could create a scar. It could create a difference on the skin, and it could be healed, and it could be a temporary process. What is cognitive bias, and how can cognitive bias can affect forensic practitioners? In the field of forensic science, a scientific type of cognitive bias, termed as forensic confirmation, is a description of an individual's beliefs and motives and situational context, which can affect the way in which criminal evidence can be collected and evaluated. It can affect the forensic practitioners because I believe a bias could happen from the emotional basis. If a forensic practitioner's family member, relative, or a friend gets caught up in a criminal case, and if that examiner knows whether that person is involved in the case, it could create a bias where the examiner would try to not incriminate the relative, friend, family member to the case, hence creating a cognitive bias. Question number 10. Does someone always leave a print when that person touches a surface? Why or why not? Some people unintentionally or intentionally could leave a print behind on a surface, and it could happen by unintentional for the most part, and it could be left behind, and thus it creates a latent print, and it could be left behind, and it could be utilized for comparing the prints with the non-prints. Question number 11. How is it possible no two people on this planet can have the same prints? What about the identical twins? Two people cannot have same prints with each other, and it's a very rare situation, and it's non-existent from what I know of. They cannot have two similar fingerprints because our DNA is affected by our parents, and it's given, and it could be affected by the environmental factors. Even if there are identical twins, the DNA could create a slight differences among the identical twins, and the environmental factors inside a mother's womb could play a very crucial role, and thus two people cannot have two identical prints.